Good morning, Simon, if you can hear me. Just looking at the initial screen here, or the main headlines. Asian shares down on tech blues as tech blues offset US tax cut reform. Well, obviously tech stocks have had a great run, and we see Amazon mentioned there as well, so presumably one of those situations where it's better to travel than arrive. But as some of you may know, I've got a slightly mischievous nature, and I'd like to see the headlines which suit that type of scenario. Obviously today or overnight we've got the Irish border row, courtesy of the DUP, who are the party keeping our good friends, the Conservatives, in power. And they've blocked the border. Well, there's a border row there, so over the Irish border, and it looks as though it's an impossible position. As you can see underneath that headline, Scotland, Wales, and London would want special treatment if Northern Ireland gets it. So good luck to Theresa May in sorting all that out. I think the market's actually underestimating the problems, the political problems here that we have at the moment, and obviously how what the exact possibility of Jeremy Corbyn and friends getting into government here, which obviously means the pound is probably a little bit more expensive than it is. As you can see overnight on the 5-minute chart, the pound is slowly factoring in the political doom and gloom. That blue line there, the pivot line, worked well as a running resistance around 134.75. It was there until about an hour ago. Initial support here 134.15 according to the pivot method, which many traders, even though it's a bit old-fashioned, many traders look at. That was also the area of support yesterday, so 134.20, looking to be a place that you would either cover your shorts or maybe think of going long. Below that, going back a bit on the daily chart, you're really looking at 133.80 or so. So not much there, but just it's really the idea that the pound is not factoring in a bit of the uncertainty that we have. But I suppose it looks as though at that 133.80, 134 area would provide reasonable support if 134.20 breaks. Onto other currencies at the moment, and obviously Euro always gets the next mention. Here, a slightly more bullish picture, 118.57, the pivot line there, and we've been above that so far, but rather dead compared to sterling at the moment. Gap there from the weekend around the 119 area, so possibly more attempts by this market to try and fill that gap over the next session. At this stage, though, it looks as though it may be rather difficult. Dollar yen. Onto that here, I suppose perhaps a bit more bullish than one would have imagined. Here is obviously the opposite situation with the gap, for the weekend gap, 112.20, the gap area, the bottom of that. The lowest we've been since then is around 112.35, and obviously the sign of bullishness there. We've broken back above the pivot there at 112.61. So at least for the next half an hour to an hour, we've got that as the notional support, and targeting back towards 112.90, which was yesterday's resistance. Onto the indices, FTSE gaining from what was it? General FTSE gaining from the pound weakness. One would presume there. 73.50 initial resistance, notional support 73.30. On that, initial spike higher for the DAX, but fell short of yesterday's resistance zone around 13,100. Gap, as is almost customary now, a gap to the upside initially. Support there 130.40, one would say, and that ties in with the pivot level and previous resistance overnight. And just going to finish off this particular session, maybe worth looking at NYMEX, which we don't often look at here, but coming back towards the lower end of its range, around the $57 area. So all the buzz regarding $60 plus seems to be fading. 57.68, the pivot on the day for that market. So one would presumably looking to go short towards that zone. That's it for the initial rundown. Hopefully we can now go over to Russell Jones to give his macro and maybe stock focus for the day. How are you today, Russell?
I'm very well, Zach. Very well. Good morning. What I'd like you to do, Zach, it's very interesting, because as you started speaking, is can you get a Bitcoin chart up for either 5 or 15-minute intervals?
I will have a good go.
5 minutes would be good if you can get a 5-minute interval. And the reason I'm asking for this is because as Zach was talking, now most of my money is still in stocks and shares. I have a proportion in Bitcoin, and obviously I've followed this quite closely for the last 2 weeks. It's just had one of its spikes, which is interesting for people who aren't aware. It's just spiked as soon as Zach was speaking. It must have been his impact. But it's got up over 100 points in literally a minute. And now, obviously, anyone that's familiar with charting, etc., which I'm not a chartist, but because I'm watching these and I've got background charts running on different monitors, you can see buying signals continually after the falls and the gains, etc. I don't know what you feel of.
That's a better chart, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know what you feel about the movements, but you can see this. It's typically after there's 2 or 3 red drops generally. Obviously, you'll be more technical than me, but you've just had a surge up to 1,700. Sorry, 11,700, which is one of these huge pickups. But I just wanted to point that out. Obviously, this is a 24/7 kind of trading facility if you're not going through a tracker fund. But I'm not going to labour on this point. But I will just finish off with Bitcoin, which at the beginning, as opposed to what I normally finish on. So the 2 trackers which I've invested in, which are available through various platforms, mine are through both Hargreaves and AJ Bell. The XPT Tracker 1, which is not in euros, it's in SEK. Basically, that went up 7.62% yesterday, but that was when market closed at 430, and that was when Bitcoin was at 11,333. So obviously, on a quick mathematical calculation, when that opens in 21 minutes, I'm going to have an instant surge up of about another 5-6% possibly. The XPT provider AB Bitcoin tracker in euros went up 8.7% yesterday. And I am mentioning these because if you are going to go into Bitcoin and you don't want to do trading on margin or trading through the evening, those I think are the safest mechanism. You don't have to create Bitcoin pockets, etc. But again, bear in mind this is a deregulated market. But before I move on to stocks and shares, in the FT today and various other papers, you see lots of things. They've confirmed that Chicago derivatives exchanges are going to go into battle, as per the FT, which is on page 26. So they're starting off with going live next Sunday evening and full trading next Monday with futures facility, and that's CBOE global markets, and the CME group go live the following week. The CBOE is interesting, the one that goes first, because they're taking their prices from Gemini, and that's the virtual currency exchange, which are run by the twins from Winklevoss, who just happened to be the first Bitcoin billionaires earlier in the week. And
they deserved a break after their run-in with Facebook. I think it was poetic justice, really.
They only had 65 million, which is small change to Zuckerberg, but obviously good luck to them. And the biggest story I thought overnight, and probably broke about 10 hours ago, and it is on the Telegraph today, although you can Google it. Jamie Dimon was one of the biggest critics of Bitcoin. He absolutely slaughtered it, saying that it's on the premium section business, Zach. I don't know if you can pick it up. There it is. So basically, Jamie Dimon absolutely crucified it, saying it was a bubble, which it possibly is.
He said it was a fraud.
Yeah, he called it everything. But now, because of pressure from his clients, JP Morgan will come out and made some very positive statements, and that's one of them. You can see it there. It could be the new gold. Yeah. They're going to go into Bitcoin, as well as the Nasdaq, as well as Cantor Fitzgerald, as well as various other things. This is getting more and more legitimacy. So the volumes are going to come into this now from the institutions, and possibly ETFs shortly afterwards. But it does mean that there is a shorting facility. And I'm not sure what impact that would be, Zach. I don't know what you feel about that, to have the shortages in there.
Well, as I said, slightly mischievous, so I'm really, and I've been a great fan of Bitcoin, so I'm really enjoying the pain of the establishment here, first it was trying to obviously poo-poo the cryptocurrency. I think that was a very serious allegation by Jamie Dimon, calling it a fraud, without really following it up at all. And then obviously his own company getting on the bandwagon here. So, you know, what is it then? I mean, I think she should clarify it properly, really. I mean, not that that many people, I think, in the market would have listened to him on that point. I mean, it was quite clear that he was attempting.
It's just that some people think he's going to run for president, don't they? And obviously he has to hear on the American public.
Well, so far he's showing himself very well qualified to be president of the United States with types of comments like that.
Right.
I think.
Before I overrun today, I just want to go very quickly through some stocks and shares. Firstly, the Dow had a massive clawback yesterday. Although it finished 58 points up, it was up over 300 points at one stage. And that showed that retraction and a cyclical move as well. So the Nasdaq finished down 72 points, and there was a massive tech rotation again in the Nasdaq. Now, you might say, you know, the gains in the Nasdaq, you know, the FANG stocks are averaging between them almost 50% up, even after yesterday's falls. They're not all 50% up, but that's the average kind of situation. And the tech rotation went into consumer discretionary yesterday, materials and telecoms. But what will happen with the Christmas rally, who knows? But there is a tendency at the moment that obviously they are taking some profits out of tech there. So be careful, because it's not just those, it's also the stocks I promoted only a couple of weeks ago, which is obviously the Chinese ones, Tencent, the Baba stocks, basically, Alibaba, etc. So just be mindful that it may not be the best time to buy tech if there's a rotation going on large cap. In terms of Wall Street futures, as we stand at about 80 up, so obviously it's looking at a positive start. Yesterday they were 230 up, but they did finish at only 58 up. In terms of Asia overnight, only the Kospi's up, which is South Korean index. And in terms of core industrial metals, both copper and zinc are down. So we're looking at pretty risk off, I think, with the FTSE going to open up fairly flattish. So you just need to mind, and the pound's come off 0.3% at 134.31, dropped significantly after the May phone call from DUP were running the country, and obviously the pound could be impacted further if it doesn't look as if there's going to be a deal with Juncker, who incidentally was picked up. He was wearing a Burberry tie this morning, a British company. He could have chose Italian fashion, but he chose British fashion when he was at that conference yesterday.
I'm not sure whether Burberry would appreciate his endorsement, but never.
Well, I think his age group is correct for Burberry.
Yes, you could be right about that.
Right, some stocks yesterday. Zach finished off Vila. They finished 10.75% up. Blue Star Capital went up 1.22%. In terms of one which I was asked to talk about, but BAE Systems had a feature in the FT today. They've underperformed the defence sector. There's a good possibility, because they're operating at a 40% discount, that you might see them going up. Only a small move yesterday. However, the target is about 635 for BAE, and it is potentially going to go higher. It depends, obviously, as well, if we have any conflicts out of North Korea, etc., how people buy on defence systems. In terms of today, there's only two stocks I've had a quick look at. One's on a trading statement and one's on a final. The first one, the final, a company called Victrex, which has got a ticker code VCT. They're worth $2 billion on a market capitalization, and they're trading at 41.52% for the year. Current price is 2420. They have come off a little bit of late, but however, it's very interesting. They manufacture and sale of polymers, and they do it around the world, so it's not literally in terms of an individual market. There's no analyst or broker views of a sell, but out of the 18 I've looked at, 11 of them are hold, 2 are outperform and 2 are strong buy, 3 underperform. The dividend traditionally is 1.93%, but on their results today, the sales are up 1% in terms of output of tonnage, because obviously they produce these polymers by the ton. The revenue in terms of selling it is up 15%, which is very good, but they also improved their margin by 40 basis points. So their profit's gone up by 11%. Earnings per share have gone up by 20%. And most interesting, this is probably something which could impact the market, is the dividend, including the special dividend. They're going to pay 121.8p compared to last year's 46.82, which is a 160% increase in dividend. So VCT, it could be that that'll have a slow start if the market's not too negative. It could be interesting. That could be one of those ones that has a gradual move, opens up 1 or 2% up or flattish, and by the end of the day, you're up 7 or 8%. That's what you notice on some of these stocks, obviously, of late. But you know, you have to do your own research. But VCT is worth looking at. And lastly, a trading statement which came out this morning from IG Group, which is the online trading company. Market capitalization 2.39. Not a massive statement. However, this company has got predominantly positive broker views. It's currently at 652 as a share price closure last night, which is 18% down for the year. And if you look at its range for the year, it's been on a low of 441 and a high of 685. So 652 to 685 is not much of a differential there in terms of where it currently is to its high for the year. First half revenues are up 9% predicted, which is pretty decent, and costs 7% lower. So the combination of those two should give a little bit of a positive to its share price this morning. But that's my summary this morning, Zach.
Russell Jones, thank you very much indeed. Have a good trading day. On to John Adamson, we hope.
Good morning, Zach. Good morning, Simon.
Good morning, John. What is your stock of the day?
So this, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. It's called Boku. So the ticker is exactly the same as the company name in the rare occasion, BOKU. Boku Incorporated. So this is an American, well, I actually feel a bit bad for covering it now, as Russell was saying, you know, tech companies may be having a bit of a downturn, so I thought I'd cover a tech company. So, this is an American firm that only just IPO'd onto AIM a fortnight ago.
I could see that.
Under the radar, really. A huge company there. So they're the largest independent direct carrier billing company, which basically means what they do is they allow you to do in-app payments and things like that. So if you're buying stuff on your mobile phone, it goes to your mobile phone bill as opposed to paying straight off your debit card. So today they've announced an agreement signed with EE with regards to Google Play, which is the main Android app store of choice. So if you like, it's the iTunes or Apple App Store for Android. Samsung, which is, you know, the largest growing sector in mobile phones worldwide. So it's the largest growing brand, should I say? Sorry, the Android platform. So it's done by a competitive tender process, and I'm expecting Boku to be announcing similar agreements with other mobile phone providers in the future. I think this is the first of many on the UK. So the IPO price for this company was actually 59 pence, but after day one, I think they were sitting around just above 80, and they've settled around 75 pence now. So, but they look. One thing it doesn't make me want to be a buyer off the back of this RNS as much as it looks very nice on the face of it. There's no figures in the RNS. It's a couple of paragraphs. Tells you about the contract win. No idea on volumes. I imagine them to be significant given EE's coverage across the UK. It's one of the more popular mobile phone operators. So one imagines that the amounts of cash going through that carrier would to be in the millions, if not tens of millions. But what Boku are actually making out of that remains to be seen. So this is a first meaningful piece of news that the company have put out in their relatively short life on AIM. So I would imagine, Zach, there is not too much for you to say on the chart at this point.
I could make something up if you like. But I don't. Isn't it just one of this is one of those. This situation highlights one of the bugbears that I think we have about some small companies, that they do a deal with a big name, and you don't actually know. I mean, it sounds great. They've done a deal with Microsoft, Google, Apple, and you don't actually know whether there's any money in it. It's basically just like a. I'm not saying it sounds anything untoward, but
yeah, I mean, this is not a small company. Let's
but it's
not.
Spin,
Yeah, it's yeah. Well, I guess is it spin? Is it just maybe not the best worded RNS? It's possibly a bit of both. Yeah. So I mean, from my point of view, I'd want to see a bit more skin on the bone, really, before I'd be putting money in. But it certainly looks like it's moving in the right direction. I think they're a very large company. They're well established in the US, and I think part of the reason for the listing in the UK is to get more of a strong footing across Europe. So we'll see what's more to come. But 75p at the moment, and let's have a look at this in a month's time, a couple of months' time, and see where it's going. But I think it's definitely, if you've not heard of it, are you into these kind of stocks, it's one to have a look at, regardless of whether you're, FTSE, AIM, standard listing, whatever you invest in. I think this is for me, it looks a very sound company.
Okay, so at least the business model there, sounds like it could be a consistent one for people.
Indeed, yeah. I think you look at the board and the experience and the clients they have. I mean, these guys are sitting quite pretty, really, but we just do, until we see their maybe first set of quarterlies, we don't really know where they're at in terms of the finances. So that's the one to look out for.
Okay, John, is that your lot for today?
That is my lot. I actually struggled this morning, I've got to be honest. I did see a couple of other things, but they're actually main market. I want to have a look at on the main market actually today. I know we're supposed to do an AIM stock, but Rainbow Rare Earths, RBW, they've just become a producer for the first time after 11 months listing. So they've set out everything they said they were going to do. And today they've just announced that they've become Africa's first genuine rare earths producer and are literally shipping the goods out as we speak. So that would be something that maybe looking at for a trade potentially. So that could see a little bump in the share price today.
Okay, well, we look forward to that happening. John Adamson from Share Talk, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
On to finishing the day off. Hopefully there's no special guest waiting in the wing. We just have to settle for Ian Foster. How's day, Ian?
Good, Zach, thank you. And yourself, good?
Yep, looking forward to your appraisal of the main markets here. I suppose I'm rather focused on the pound. I'm concerned that there may be some political issues for the, all over the place actually for Theresa May at the moment.
Well, as I say to you, the pound is nearly an impossible market to trade because probably the issues that are going on that probably shouldn't be going on due to the fact that if there's a trade agreement between the GB and the EU, there would be nothing whatsoever. There wouldn't be a problem between the Northern Irish and Southern Irish border, which is it's just a political storm that shouldn't be there, in my opinion. But anyway, that's my opinion. As far as cable is concerned, as we all know, as far as yesterday was concerned, I was in one trade and got stopped out, I have to say, because the market was looking, pretty weak early on, looking for further weakness, and then all of a sudden we get this bar here, Zach, and then all of a sudden later on you get this bar here down, and it would leave it. I think you'd need to be a magician to trade it. Certainly yesterday, if you're using any kind of methodology whatsoever. Now this morning, certainly you can see here the red bars, both the 15-minute and the 5-minute chart, are certainly showing weakness. And it's probably, I have to honestly say, you have to look to the bigger picture. The weekly bar is very much a bullish bar from last week, so we're trading, you can see we're trading inside last week's range, but that does not mean to say that there's not going to be counter trend weakness, and there are certainly going to be trading opportunities, those that we've already seen probably on a smaller time frame this morning, and probably will continue to do so. The euro dollar, again, I've got last week's low here in at 118.08, trading now at about 118.50, whatever it is, trading at 59 or whatever, 56 as we speak. So it has a little bit of movement. I think the euro also, it needs to break this 118.08 for true weakness to come into it. And this is where we are. We're just in green bars in the 60-minute chart. Now you can see cable has actually broken through the previous vertical bar trading pattern low here just as we speak. There is the line there in a 60-minute chart. Just come back to that for a little second. So if we do get a close below this here, now this bar does close now very shortly. It closes at 8 o'clock, 8 a.m. That would indicate that probably that there certainly could be a decent down move in cable, although as I say, you have to be very aware of last week's low, but still there's plenty of pips there to be had in cable. Again, for the same scenario to happen in the euro dollar, I think I need to see it made a higher high than the previous high. The last lows down here, so it's 118.08 is the key level, I think, in cable, if we're trying, or in euro dollar rather, if we're trying to take a position. Getting on to the indices, again, you can see the FTSE has went into rally mode this morning, but again, yesterday's high is 7368, trading at the present minute at 7353 and 7350 here, just about to open. Again, 7368. It has to break, in my opinion, to the upside. The DAX also had a pretty decent day yesterday. In a way, again, it was pretty volatile. But look, yesterday's bar was quite a bearish bar, Zach, when it closed here, and the high's 13,118, trading presently at 13,057. So I still think that any rallies in the indices, mainly the DAX and the FTSE, they have to be breaking yesterday's highs. And my objective certainly in the DAX is to looking to sell as close to 13,118 as possible for a run down here below yesterday's low at 12,972. If we get on to the Dow, just to finish off, and perhaps there was yesterday's movement in the Dow, or not yet, that's the 60-minute chart. You can see the last bar here, the last hour trading, it came off, still in blue mode. And let's face it, if you're trading just based on the our trend trader software, you'll be up 1,000 points from the last signal. But if I go on to the daily chart, a very bearish bar, a very bearish close as far as the daily bar is concerned in the US and in the US 30, and that there maybe could be significant enough. I'm just looking at the transport index, which is part of Dow theory, as we all know. And again, the weekly bar, last week's price action objective in the US has been achieved to the upside. It has broke the upside, and there's where we're sitting. So perhaps that can be indicating further weakness or a little bit of weakness coming into the indexes. Again, it's important to trade what we see. And just before I go, just want to share with you my Bitcoin. And here is our last trade. It's went blue over here. It retraced a little bit at a stop just underneath 380. And thank goodness we're trading up here at this present minute with the blue bars. So my Bitcoin trade, the market's presently trading at, where are we trading, Zach? At 754. So I'm probably up just 140 or 150 points, which can turn around, as we all know, in a flash. But that's just the Bitcoin trade. Bitcoin has been excellent. I've had one losing trade, folk, as far as Bitcoin is concerned, in my Pelican app. So therefore, it's totally transparent. So it is a great market to trade, as we all know. And thank you, Zach, for putting me onto Bitcoin. Thank you. So that was my analysis today. Zach.
Thank you, Ian. You're too kind. Just to quickly finish off with the movers, the early movers on the London market, and here we see that there's no in the let us say the volume traders. We've got the big names really, so no real surprises. The Glencores, the Tesco's. So I suppose Tesco up 3% is a highlight of sorts, as is Tullow Oil, also up around the same amount. So initial momentum in those two areas. On the sort of the all share area, I suppose the highlights there really down to Trinity Mirror, Premier Foods on the upside, and poor old Nonoco and Foxtons on the downside. Also see that Rock Hopper Exploration is down there, but not great excitement there in terms of the price action there. So just we'll have to see how things develop later in the day. That was very, very early at the moment. And just finishing off on the FTSE 100, if that comes through, we've got this market up 20 points at 73.60. As we know, 73.80, the initial support there. And what will be interesting also to see, obviously, with the pound's weakness, it's now towards 134, whether that will impact positively on the FTSE 100. But that's it for today's show. See us or join us again tomorrow at 7:30.